Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to this very special workshop to help you leverage your personal brand and become the go-to person in your area of expertise, leveraging all things LinkedIn and social selling. I'm Sam Rathling. For those of you that have not come across me before, it's a great pleasure to be with you all. You're all nice and early. I couldn't believe how many people are on already. If you want to say hello in the chat box, just tell me where you're dialing in from. I think I've got that set up to for you to all be able to message. If someone could just type in the chat box for me, I will just say hello to everyone first. There we go. Devon. Hi, Vanessa. West Wales. Hi, Jeremy. Welcome. Let's see who we've got. Stoke. Jill in Stoke. Hi, Jill. How are we? Malaysia. I love it. That's why I did this at this time of the day, because I wanted to make sure that our friends across in America could attend, but also the people that are in Asia, etc. So I'm trying to capture as many people as possible. So I've got, there we go, Bristol. Hi, Rafe. How are you? Fiona. Scottish Borders. Love it. Okay, great, perfect. I know we've got tons of people on. I've got loads of people registered for this. I think I've got over 150 people registered. I'm going to keep the chat open, so please be nice. If you're not nice, I'm going to close the chat, but hopefully you'll all be nice and interactive in the session. Sunny Bournemouth, hi Diana, hi Joe. Another one there from, we've got India. Hi Ronnie, how are you? I love it. Okay, good. So I'm going to do this through sharing my journey, because I know some of you know me as who I am now, but I haven't always been kind of the expert that I am. And I wanted to share my own journey in business combined with sharing lots and lots of tips to help you. And many of you jumped on this webinar because you want to become that kind of go-to person. And I'm going to share loads of value in terms of how you can become that. So grab yourself a pen and paper or digital notes or whatever you use to capture things. I'm going to share my screen. I will be doing a few kind of interactive things along the way. I'll be asking you to chat in the chat box. If you do have a specific question, I'm going to stay on at the end for as long as you need me for specific questions. There is a Q&A button that you'll see on Zoom. Don't put your questions in the chat because that's going to move quite quickly. So if you do put a question in the chat, I might not see it. So use the specific Q&A box for that. And don't raise your hand because I'm not going to see it either. So if you want to interact, Q&A only. And if I ask you a question and ask you to put it in the chat box, we'll go through. I will be sending out a replay, but that doesn't mean you can switch off and not pay attention, because I would like you to interact, but everyone that is registered will get a copy of the recording as soon as I can get it out to you. Okay, so that will be happening. Okay. Right, so let's see if I can share my screen. I haven't done one of these in a while for reasons that you will find out shortly, but let's see how we go. Okay, good. So I've called this the butterfly effect because, number one, I'm a big fan of butterflies. And I think this whole idea of metamorphosis and transformation for us as entrepreneurs and business owners is really, really key. And I'm sharing that kind of process because for me it's definitely one of those things. If I relate my journey and the journey of business, I think this is probably one of the best analogies I can use. So the butterfly effect is all about how you can become the go-to person leveraging LinkedIn and social selling. Now, there are 4 stages of metamorphosis, and I'm going to talk you through each one, and I'm going to relate them to where you might be in your business. So the first stage is that of a little egg sitting on a leaf. The second is the caterpillar phase. So the egg turns into a caterpillar. Then the caterpillar turns into a cocoon. And then, of course, once the cocoon breaks, you, of course, have the beautiful butterfly. But if we take each of the stages in business, I once was an egg, and there may be many eggs watching this call right now. But if you are an egg, you're probably in your first 12 months of business. You're probably someone who is maybe feeling a little bit lonely. Maybe you've left a corporate job, or you had a lot of people around you, and now you're kind of out on your own in the business world. But it is a pretty lonely place starting a business from scratch. It probably means that your early stages, you're not yet at the point where you're making enough income to against the goals that you set, etc. But that if you're an egg, you're probably in that kind of phase right now. Now, the hungry caterpillar, I'm sure I've got a lot of you on this. This is what I describe as the phase where you're just consuming as much knowledge and expertise from other people that are ahead of you so that you can actually help yourself to build your business. So you're probably attending webinars and workshops like this one. You're probably listening to podcasts. You're probably following influencers in your space so that you can get better at what you do. You're probably consuming YouTube videos, or you're going to events to learn from other people that are more successful than where you want to be. So you might be a hungry caterpillar, and you at this stage, you're probably through the egg phase, but you're still in kind of early stages of business, maybe in the first 3 to 5 years, etc. And you're still learning. And I think we all are still learning, no matter what stage we're at. But it's important that you understand what phase you're in. So the next phase is not the nicest of places to be in, but you might be in a bit of adversity at the moment. So you might be facing some challenges. You might be facing some health challenges. You might be facing some relationship challenges. You might be facing some business challenges. We've all been there, and I've been there many, many times, some of which I'm going to share with you. But it's important that you recognize, like, if you're in a dark place at the minute, or you're in a bit of adversity, it's okay. It does get better, and you will come out the other side. But if you are in that place, please reach out for help. My inbox is always open, by the way. But we'll all go through these phases in business, and it is one of those things that's going to happen at some point in our businesses. So you might be in a cocoon right now. And the final place, which is where we all hope to get to, is where we are the best version of ourselves personally, but our business is also the best version of itself as well. So butterfly business is at the point where you've reached reached what you want to achieve. You've got a sustainable, profitable business that's, that can run you without you, that can move you towards your goals. And that's both you as a person and also you as a business as well. So first off, what I'd like you to do is identify which of those you are right now. I'm going to run a quick poll so I can see who we've got on the line. This is anonymous, by the way, so no one will see this. So feel free to choose whichever of the 4 options that are there. So are you identifying yourself as an egg, a hungry caterpillar, in a bit of a cocoon right now, or already a butterfly? And by the way, if you're already a butterfly, great. You can always be, you can always be better than you are right now. So, okay, good. I'll just give it another 20 seconds or so just to get everybody in. We've got 2/3 of you who have answered. Interesting. It's interesting when I do these, because I've done this session, I think about 3 times, and the stats always change, and I think it's quite indicative of what's going on in the world right now. So I've got, I think, nearly all of you, 75% of you have answered. I'm just going to share the results on screen for you so you can see you're not alone. So for those of you that said I'm a little egg, 14% of the audience are currently eggs. 42% of you, no surprise because you're on a session to learn, are hungry caterpillars. But wow, 34% of you feel like you're in that kind of a bit of a cocoon. You've got some stuff going on, facing a bit of adversity. So I'm here to help you as much as possible. 10% of you already feel like you're in a butterfly stage, which is amazing. But I just wanted you to, whatever stage you're at, it's okay. And whatever stage you're at, you're not alone, is what I'm trying to say here. We've got close to 100 people on the call, just so you've got an idea of the audience. Okay, so let's talk about personal brand. So using the chat box, for those of you, some of you I know me, because I can see the names who are attending. Some of you might be seeing me for the first time. When you hear my name, Sam Rathling, what do you think of first? What type of things? Use the chat box for me. I won't be offended. What do you think of first? Okay, LinkedIn expert, LinkedIn guru, BNI, LinkedIn leader. Okay, good. LinkedIn expert, my LinkedIn book, sales navigator guru, love it. LinkedIn social selling queen, LinkedIn leader. Okay, LinkedIn business to business, like it. LinkedIn pro. Okay, these are some of the things I expected to come up. Cancer survivor, thank you. LinkedIn amazing person, love it. Thanks, Pauline. Oh, Pauline, hi, Pauline. I love it. So these are some of the things that, this is what I want people to say, right? that's what you need to do for your personal brand. If you were in front of 100 people, some of who knew you and some of who didn't, and you ask the question, what's the first thing you think of when you think of me? You want them to be saying the thing that you want to be an expert in, or your positioning, right? So now, I do talk about other things as well, of course, but that is the thing that I want to be known for. I want to be known as a LinkedIn expert, as the go-to person for LinkedIn, etc. And that's what I've spent all these years building my brand, to the point where all of you guys answered pretty much the same thing when I asked that question. Okay. Now, what do you think of, not that question, what else could you associate me with? Well, some of you know me as a bit of a master networker. I'm also an author. A few of you mentioned my books. Now, most of you will probably know my books, Linked to Inbound and Linked to Outbound. But in 2013, when nobody knew who I was, I wrote a little ebook called LinkedIn or Linked Out. And it was 107 ways to grow your business using LinkedIn. And the reason I wrote that little ebook that you see there on the right-hand side is because I wanted, at the time when nobody knew who I was, to stamp my authority on my subject. It did not take long for me to write. It was a tiny little thin thing. It's about 50 pages long, and it's nowhere near as detailed as Linked Inbound and Linked Outbound. They came later, but I wanted to stamp my authority on my expertise. So I wrote a little book that helped me to do that. So that is one of the ways that you can stamp your authority and build your personal brand. It's not the only way, but by the way, these Linked Outbound is currently on offer at 99p, so on Kindle. So if you haven't got it and you want to get a copy of it, go grab a copy. I'm also running a competition right now until the 13th of August, I think. If you take a picture of one of my books, digital or hard copy, and post it on the newsfeed of LinkedIn, you can win a year's worth of coaching with me, which is worth £6,000. So if you want to do that and enter the comp, just go over to my newsfeed if you haven't seen the competition, but just a little side note there. Okay, so positioning wise, I wrote a book. I wrote LinkedIn Inbound because I wanted, at that stage, after I'd gone kind of full on committing to being kind of the go-to person, I wrote that one in 2019 because, again, there were a few more people coming into my space. It was getting a lot more crowded, and there was no like amazing book out there about what I talk about. So that's why I wrote the second one, Linked Inbound, and Linked Outbound has come more recently because I want to stamp my authority in the sales navigator space. So I speak as well. I'm an international speaker. I do a lot of corporate training, so I'm quite well known for my corporate training, Sales Navigator, LinkedIn, but all of this came later, okay? All of this came once I had built my brand. I'm an entrepreneur. That's Nick and Chris, my business partners. You'll hear about them later. But I'm also a single mom as well. So I wear lots and lots of different hats, and I talk about all of those hats on the newsfeed. My most recent one being that I've just come through the other side of 6 months of chemotherapy, a few weeks of radiotherapy, and getting over breast cancer, which has been probably my biggest cocoon moment over the course of ever having started a business. I was debating whether to wear my wig today or whether to not. So I think I'm actually going to take it off. There we go. So, because I'm really hot. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to go Sam the Survivor today, if that's all right. So that's better. Okay, good. So for me being, when I was an egg, if I was an egg again, because I've been an egg quite a few times, I've run a few different businesses. If I was an egg again, if I think back to where I was, 2010, a few of you mentioned BNI actually in the comments there. I was invited to speak on stage at a BNI conference in Yorkshire in 2010. I'd never set foot on stage before. I'd never spoken about anything. And someone invited me based on knowing my story. So this is not the greatest photo, but it's like a still from a video. And this is the first time I ever spoke about, you were there, Jeremy, wow. I had never spoken about LinkedIn, and this is the first time I stepped on a stage to talk about the power of LinkedIn. So I have been doing this for close on 15 years, talking about the LinkedIn platform. And back then, like, nobody was talking about LinkedIn. Like, I think there was 4 other people in the country that had LinkedIn as one of their kind of areas of expertise. And I was the only girl, first off, and I was petrified. Like, I'd never ever stepped foot on stage. Everyone else that was in that room was a paid professional speaker. Like, somebody had been paid £10,000 to speak in front of this audience, and I was the only one that wasn't paid that day. I got a standing ovation. You'll probably remember it, Jeremy. And I just fell in love with speaking, and I realized actually nobody really knows about this. But the point there is that back then there was no one talking about it. Right now, you could probably go to 150,000 LinkedIn coaches, personal brand experts, social media people. But it's always about how do you keep your positioning above everybody else. And back then, that was the first time that I had spoken about it. But I felt like a bit of an imposter on that stage. I was petrified. I really at that stage was not worth following as an expert because I didn't have much credibility, right? I built a business in a different space. I built a recruitment company and I'd done it through LinkedIn and I'd done it through networking, but I wasn't really at the point where anybody kind of would follow me because I had zero credibility in my space. And for those of you who are eggs, you might feel a bit like that. Just if you do want to comment, you don't have to. But if you're an egg right now and you feel a little bit like this, I'm not really worth following yet. I don't have a lot of credibility yet. Feel like a bit of an imposter at the moment. Just type yes for me in the chat box, eggs, if you do feel a little bit like that. I know there's not loads of you, but for those of you that are, okay, so you resonate with this, Charlie. Okay, good. So, and it's difficult, right? When you don't have a brand yet and you're just starting out to kind of go, well, how can I become like that go-to person? Because I'm not really there yet. And I'll talk you through some of these things. Now, back then in 2010, I wasn't doing the LinkedIn thing full time. It was like a passion thing, a side hobby alongside running another business. In 2016, I moved back to the UK. I'd had my recruitment business, which had done very well. I went into the network marketing industry, did very well. And then it all came crashing around me because the company I was working with basically went bust. I lost pretty much everything. And in 2016, I crawled back to the UK, having not been here for 15 years. And this was the only place that would give us residency. I found another entrepreneur that ran, actually through BNI as well, who knew somebody that was renting a house out, but we couldn't afford to get our furniture out of storage. We've been out of the country 15 years. And me and the kids and my then husband lived in this space with no furniture for 6 weeks. And that little desk that you see on screen and that little fold up chair, I think I got the desk from B&M for about £17. I've still got it. It's actually in my office, like right over there, to remind me of where I came from. That is where I started my what is now LinkedIn business, LinkedIn marketing business. But I still had no personal brand, literally nothing. Nobody. I had quite a small network because I'd not been in the UK for a long time. I had a fairly big LinkedIn network, but not a very big kind of local network, if that makes sense. I had no money as well. So I was very much an egg, right? However, I did have a very, very big dream, and I've always been a big dreamer, and I've always set massive goals. And that's been a big kind of part of my journey. So I decided that on that little desk, in that little space when I had no money and nobody knew who I was going to become the go-to person in Europe for LinkedIn and social selling. That was my big vision that I'd set for myself. I also wanted to make a massive impact on the lives of other people. And I set the goal of generating £1 billion for my clients, not for me, for the people that I help to generate business from LinkedIn. So we track and measure every piece of business that our clients get. There's lots out that I don't know about, but what I do know is there's at least 168 million out there that's been generated so far by the people that I've helped. And that's part of my kind of big vision. And the final thing was, as an expert and somebody that works, my brand is me ultimately, it was to build a sustainable, profitable business that could scale without me. Because as an individual who's got an expertise, or if you're a coach or a consultant or a speaker or a mentor, any of those things, you kind of are the brand. So I was trying to figure out always, like, how can I actually build a business that can scale without me and that can run without me if I needed it to, and that I could potentially exit from in the future. So those are my three kind of big goals. So what is your big vision for your personal brand? Like, what do you want to be known as the expert in? Just type in the chat box for me. You might not know the answer to that yet, but what is the thing that you want to be known for? Like, you are the go-to person for, great, Maria, sustainability, love it. So just type in the chat box for me, what is the thing that you want to become known as the expert in? Go-to finance coach for couples, love it. Website expert, human storyteller, love it. Digital nomadism, future of work. Strategic, oh, love it. There's such a massive amount. Headshots, love it. Amazing, amazing. Market access expert, executive mindset coach, NLP sales coach. The problem is with the majority of those things, there's lots of other people out there doing it. And it's about how do you cut through all that noise and how do you kind of elevate your brand above everybody else. But the first step is having this kind of big vision and going, right, I'm going to stamp my authority on that, and I'm going to become the go-to person for that. So I love how many diverse different kind of experts we've got on this call. It's brilliant. So overriding all of this, so how do you do this on LinkedIn and social selling, is the equation that I talked about for a long time, which is visibility plus credibility equals opportunity. So visibility, you've got to be visible on LinkedIn. If you want to get business from this platform, you have to be visible. You've got to be out there. You've got to have a profile that gets you found. You need to have keywords on your profile. You need to be posting consistently. You need to be engaging. You need to be, you can't be one of these LinkedIn lurkers in the background where nobody is, where you are watching everyone else do stuff. You're consuming content, but you're not actually putting any out there. So visibility is key. Credibility is key, and that will lead you to opportunities on the platform if you know what you're doing. So remember this as I go through the presentation, because there will be elements of visibility and credibility through each and every single one of the things I'm going to talk about. So if you want to become the go-to person, remember visibility, credibility equals opportunity. Now, my little egg business, I'm not going to read it all out, but you can see it on the screen there. I was a local LinkedIn kind of trainer. I was kind of at the point when this is in 2016. I was doing everything myself. I was working stupid hours. I had no consistent revenue. It was very feast or famine. I was selling time for money. I ran some workshops, things like that. A terrible cash flow, and no one knew or cared who I was, right? So this was my challenge. I was making anywhere between £1,000 and £3,000 a month. That was back in 2016, 2017. And that's how most egg businesses are, because that you're kind of just starting out, right? And it's okay if you're an egg, but you've still got to figure out, like, how am I going to get from being an egg into the next phase? So what would I do if I was an egg today? Here are some of the things that I would do, and I did do when I was an egg, and I'm still doing a lot of these today. The first thing is you've got to be everywhere. You cannot build a business if you're just sitting in your home office hoping that someone is going to message you because you posted something on a social media platform. You've got to be everywhere. I mean, out at events, out online, doesn't matter, like speaking to people, getting on all sorts of different things. So when I mean be everywhere, like, I didn't care if I was being given 10 people in a room or 30 people in a room. I just took every opportunity I could to get my brand out there and get taken photos of me doing the thing that I wanted to become the expert in. So first thing is getting into rooms, speaking opportunities. I didn't care if they were paid, non-paid, didn't care. It gave me an opportunity to kind of look like I was busy, first off, because at the time I wasn't being paid a lot of money, but allowed me to kind of position myself as like, oh, she's doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn, like she's the person to go to. But every one of the people in these audiences that I was in front of had their own network. So what I would do is I would get as visible as possible offline and in person, and then I would document that so that everybody's networks knew about the fact that I was with that person. So I would post about these opportunities that I was getting, and I would tag people that were in the room, and suddenly their networks were being notified about it as well. So get as visible as possible offline and in person. So right now, if you're hibernating in your home office and you're not getting out there, that is going to be a problem for you. So if you're an egg, you're not going to build beyond being an egg if you don't get out there. I documented it heavily on LinkedIn, right? So we'll talk a little bit about documenting. What that means is, as soon as you're out there doing stuff, post about it. Like, it's really important that people see that you're flipping everywhere, right? Because once you start to do that, you attract more and more attention, your network starts to grow, and people start following your content, and people start getting curious about what you're doing. That then helps to build your credibility. People start to talk about you. Obviously, you've got to be good if you're out talking in front of rooms, etc. But you don't just have to do that in rooms. You can also get noticed and get also interviewed by lots and lots of other people. So if you don't have an audience yet and you're an egg, borrow other people's. So get onto as many people's podcasts as possible. Get onto as many people's YouTube channels as possible. Find other people that have got an audience that you don't have, that you want, and get invited to speak on their podcast. A lot of podcast guests or people with YouTube channels are always crying out for great people to speak to. So I identified 20 podcasts about marketing that were already popular. So I went onto all of the kind of the charts and I was like, I need to get on that person's podcast, right? So I set my sights on, and one of them was Janet Murray. And at the time, Janet had like a mega podcast. I think she still does. And I was like, I need to get on Janet's podcast. She hadn't had anyone speak about LinkedIn yet. And I was like, that's what I need to do. I manifested the fact that she was in Italy at the same speaking event as me back in 2018. We met. I helped her with a few things from a LinkedIn perspective, and she invited me onto her podcast. Boom, suddenly I'm like, well, my brand is launched to her audience, right? So if you don't have an audience, borrow other people's and get as visible as possible online. You can literally type in my name. All of my daughter's friends do this now, and they're like, oh, you've got 9,000 things come up when you Google you. So you want to be Googleable, right? You've got to, if you want to be positioning yourself as like the go-to person, and someone types in your name on Google and nothing comes up, you've got a bit of a problem. So I went on to as many things as possible. Everything I said yes to. I was like, someone said, can you do an interview about this? Yes. Do you want to be on my podcast? Yes. Even if someone doesn't have an audience yet. A good friend of mine, Amy Rowlinson, she has a podcast called Focus on Why. She read my book, posted about it on LinkedIn, and she invited me to her podcast. And she had a property podcast at the time, and it was quite popular. But she had basically got to a point where that one was finishing, and she said, look, I want to do an interview with you, but I literally have no audience. Like, it's the first episode. And I was like, okay. And she was like, you sure you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, 100%. Like, she's like, but I don't have an audience right now. Today, her Focus on Why podcast is one of the most downloaded podcasts in the UK. I think she's got over 500 episodes. It's literally listened to all over the world. And little old me saying yes to Amy with no audience, I'm the most listened to episode because it was one of the first ones. I think it published the fourth one. I was interviewed first, but it published as the fourth episode. I landed a £24,000 piece of business from someone that listened to her podcast. If I'd have said no because she didn't have an audience yet, I would not have landed that 24,000 piece of business. So you never know who's listening. You never know who's watching. I still get business from the Property Sisters one I did in lockdown. I still get people saying, well, I've just seen this on YouTube. So always borrow other people's audiences if you don't have one. And guess what? Document it on LinkedIn. So it doesn't matter if you're doing a thing online, if you're doing a thing in a room, document it on the news feed. And what I mean by documenting is this, right? You can see this is from most of these are from, I literally went through putting this presentation together, all my posts from like 5, 6, 7 years ago. And this is me just documenting everything. Like, oh, I'm in a room with gold pay. Oh, I'm in a workshop. Oh, I'm speaking at a martial arts conference. Oh, I'm doing a workshop over here, a workshop over there. I'm speaking to this audience, right? So this was about me building my brand and positioning myself in a way, but documenting it. If you look, I'm tagging all the people, that one on the left there, for example, tagging all the people that are in the room and asking them to comment below what they took away from my session. So it's them sharing their experience of working with me. So this is how you document your journey. So if you're not already doing this, start doing this because it's really important. Doesn't matter whether you're an egg, a caterpillar, in a cocoon, or a butterfly, like you should all be doing that. The caterpillar phase, so the hungry caterpillar phase, I like to call this, this is where I was like consuming everything. I read all these books in a year, by the way, like I was mental. Now I hardly read any books at all because I know that it's a massive distraction and I kind of know what I need to do. But some of them, like, you know, genuinely did help me. The one that helped me a lot was the Daniel Priestley Key Person of Influence. I was like, oh, that's what I want to be. So I that was one that really made a difference to me. But I did consume lots and lots of books. At the time, I was also like, right, I need to also put a profile together on LinkedIn that oozes credibility. Like someone needs to go to my LinkedIn profile and think, wow, I need to book that person. Now, I could talk for 2 hours just on about LinkedIn profiles. I'm not going to do that. But things like recommendations, if you don't have recommendations on your LinkedIn profile, they're like the Amazon reviews for you being good at what you do. We don't buy products on Amazon. We buy the reviews ultimately. Go to my profile. There are over 300 LinkedIn recommendations about how good I am at what I do. If you don't have at least 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 recommendations of other people saying this is a great person to work with, you're missing a trick. So credibility comes from what you say about yourself and your profile, but also what others say about you too. You can leverage those recommendations in lots and lots of different ways. If you're wondering how to build a LinkedIn profile effectively, there's a couple of videos on my YouTube channel that will help you with that. It's just youtube.com/Sam Rathling. And there are some, some document posts and things like that on my profile. So don't worry too much about the profile side of things. Just what I would say is just you've got to pay some attention that it really does speak to your kind of ideal client. When it comes to your ideal client, you've got to really be clear about who it is you are trying to get in front of. So think about what industry sectors. The ideal stands for is an acronym. So the I stands for what industry sectors do you want to be working with? The D is the demographics. So what size companies, what type of companies, what type of businesses do you want to work with? Are they, FTSE 100 companies? Are they family run traditional businesses? Like who are you trying to target? The E is the experience. So the job titles that these people have. So for me, I'm always looking to target in the corporate space, CROs like chief revenue officers, sales leaders, head of sales, sales directors, etc. That's my kind of target market for my corporate training. But then I also work a lot with coaches, consultants, and solopreneurs. So I have two different sets of target markets, but you've got to know, like, crystal clear on who your ideal client is. Now, you've got to build your network daily with these people. If you're not adding new connections every single day into your LinkedIn network, you're missing opportunities massively. You've got two types of ways to build your network. So one is inbound. So that is where people come to you saying, I'd like to invite you to be in my network. And of course, that's great, but it is very reactive, right? It's not, inbound is kind of the hope strategy. It's like, oh, I hope somebody sends me a message or sends me a connection request because I've put some content out there. The outbound way to generate leads is proactive, where you're proactively going out there and adding people into your network who match your ideal client. Now, currently, based on the time of recording this, which is early August 2024, for those of you who are watching the recording, it is possible to invite up to 200 people a week to join your network. And you should be doing that every single week without fail. If you want to build an audience and build a following, we're talking about 25, 30 to 50 connections per week, per day, that you should be adding to build your network. If you're not proactively building your network, then who's going to see your content? So if you're a little egg or a hungry caterpillar and you're just kind of starting out, you need to be building your network daily. And that means going onto LinkedIn, finding your ideal client and inviting them to connect with you. Okay. Now everyone's got a slightly different one. Helen, you've said you only get 100 a week. It's pushed up to about 150 now. We've got quite a few of our clients and ourselves in our team that are pushing 200 now. It resets on a Sunday, I believe. But it might be a different day of the week for you. So just check and test and measure, but you should be able to push out more than 100 now. They did cap it at 100 at a time, but now the limitation is lifted slightly. But 150 to 200. But as an absolute worst case, 20 a day, Monday to Friday, you definitely need to be doing that. So network building is really important. Once you build your network and people start interacting with you, there are lots of different ways to build your network. Obviously, connecting with people, you should be getting about a 50% acceptance rate, just to give you an idea. So if you invite 100 people, about 50 of them should say yes. If they're not, there's a problem, right? So there'll be a problem with your profile, there'll be a problem with who you're connecting with, there might be a problem with your messaging. There's all sorts of things that could cause you not to be getting 50%, but 50% is where you ideally need to be aiming for. Now, here's how inbound works. So this is me speaking on stage at an Italian marketing summit. This is actually where I met Janet. This came from somebody saying, "Hi Sam, I've been following you on LinkedIn for 4 years, and I'd like to invite you to be a speaker at our event in Milan." And I was like, who is this woman? And I realized that this woman she'd never interacted with my posts. She'd never liked or commented on anything. And she had been lurking in the background, following me for many, many years. And she invited me, and this was a paid gig. I went over to Milan, fully expenses paid gig. It was amazing. I loved it. And it came from somebody inbound who had been following me for 4 years, but I didn't know. So just because you're not getting engagement on posts, or just because these people that you're adding into your network are not interacting with your content, it doesn't mean that they're not watching. So bear in mind that not every single connection is going to engage with your posts, and that's okay, because the majority of your work is actually probably going to come from the lurkers and the people who are not currently liking, commenting, and proactively doing stuff on the platform. So don't worry too much about that. But if you're not building your network, these kind of opportunities aren't going to come your way. Jeremy says the lurkers are my best clients. They're mine too, Jeremy. I love lurkers. You've got to love the lurkers for sure. That's definitely the case. And I've talked about documenting and creating content. Of course, I'm going to talk about content when it comes to building your personal brand and leveraging how you can become the go-to person. Here are some of my most recent ones. This is still me. You know, you've seen me doing this 5, 6, 7 years ago. These are ones in the last kind of few months. So 6 days ago, doing a workshop for a client. This one here is me doing work with MasterCard. This is me talking about the day that I got told I was going to have to go into chemotherapy, and I was dealing with lots of issues 6 months ago, knowing that I was going to have to go into some horrible treatments essentially, but I've documented it all the way through. So it's important that you're documenting what you're up to, and it's really, really important that you're adding layers of credibility with that. So for example, me posting about the fact that I'm working with MasterCard is a credibility building post. These are the kind of things that are going to attract more and more people towards you and are going to drive the inbound to happen. So do I get more business when I post about the fact that I'm out there doing something? Absolutely. Do I get more business when I post about stories about how I've helped my clients? Absolutely. This is all social proof. Like, this is social proof that I'm out there, I'm doing it, and I'm working with these clients. Now, you can't always tag the companies. I had to get very special permission to tag MasterCard, and I had to go through millions of approvals with communications to write this post. But it is possible with permission, obviously, to talk about your clients. If you can't, then you can talk about scenarios. So you might not be able to share every single customer you've worked with, especially if you've got confidential work that you do, but you can talk about the fact that you've worked with a client in the pharmaceutical industry or whatever it might be. You can describe the client, describe the scenario, why they brought you in, what the pain points were that you were solving for them. And you can still document what you're up to, but without necessarily saying who the customer is. So where possible, get permission to talk about this on the newsfeed. Every single one of my proposals has the fact that I can use their logo and I can talk about it on the newsfeed, and I get them to sign contracts to say I can do that. So make sure that you're building that into your sales process. Here's another one, me talking in Canada. This was actually a hybrid event. So they were in the room, I was on screen. And this is a video of me talking at the Department of Trade and Industry, literally like the day before I was going to the hospital for my biopsy. So you know what, I'm kind of out there and I've still been doing everything. This is educational content. So I produce document posts to help people. So 15 ways to build your pipeline, 10 lessons building to 30K followers. You know, so think about how you can not just document, but also educate people. Because if you want to kind of become the go-to person, you need to be putting content out there that demonstrates that you know what you're actually talking about, okay? The next piece is personal versus business. Now, I know not everybody's like a big fan of posting about personal posts, and there's been loads of debates about it, but the fact of the matter is that personal posts will always get more impressions, more reach, more everything, because they have human connection behind them. And if I were to look at all of my top posts over the last couple, I think I went back over the last year, these are my top performing posts, and not one of them is about LinkedIn. I've looked, this is about me being this is about a new month, like what's your excuse? And this is one about my chemotherapy. This is one about my holiday. This is over here, doing deals from a hospital bed. Don't recognize myself anymore. 2 weeks ago, found a lump on my breast. I'm a track mum. Here's my daughters, they shaved their hair off, you know, when I got my cancer, etc. Like, I'm not saying that, but every single post that I've done that has performed about LinkedIn, social selling, tips, etc., none of them has got the reach of any of the ones that are about my personal story. So you need to be definitely posting personal as well as business, but also you've got to be someone that other people talk about. And all of the stuff that you're doing as you're building your business, you need to have that kind of everybody saying that's the person to go to. Like, I've had a massive amount of referrals and people sharing and tagging me. Like, if someone asks a question, you want to get to the point where on LinkedIn, if someone says, I need help with X, and it's your area of expertise, whether it's sustainability or whether it's leadership or whatever it is, that someone tags you and a million other people go, this is the person to talk to. You've got to be someone that other people talk about. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to build to the butterfly business. Another way to look at this is you've got to be looking at, can I create some assets? Like, you've got to take people from LinkedIn offline. So just as a little test of this, by the way, I've created quite a few different assets. We've got a few different ones, but like 44 prospecting tips, complete guide to social selling, 100 content ideas. We've got tons of these in our business. And they're about to be a bunch more. These are free PDFs that people can go put their email address in and download them. Just as a little test, how did you find out about this workshop? Was it email or LinkedIn or something else? Type in the chat box for me and let me know how you found out about this particular event. It's a mix. We've got our recommendations, referrals, some on LinkedIn, email, a few more emails. Some of you told to come. LinkedIn, right? It's a real mix, right? But some of you have said, I came here because of email. And if you're not leveraging LinkedIn to move people off the platform to then come across to email, for example, to then come into your world, you can then nurture these people once you have got them onto your email list. My only job on LinkedIn is to secure about 500 new people a month onto my email list, because I know that will grow my business. So I know that people will come to my events. I know that people will learn more about what I'm doing, right? So there's lots of different ways that people have found. But again, how much are you leveraging assets, like digital assets, to basically help people to learn more about how to learn more from you? My LinkedIn profile has things on it to drive people to go download things that then allow them to come onto my email list, for example. So you've got to have these conversion mechanisms on LinkedIn so that you can take people. There's many different ways you can do this, but are you using your LinkedIn profile to move people off of LinkedIn to help them to ensure that you've got the ability to communicate with them outside of the platform? If you're not, then that's an opportunity for you. Now, give a lot away. This is a biggie. If you want to become the go-to person, I did rave. If you want to become the go-to person, you've got to give a lot away. Don't be afraid to share your expertise. Like this workshop, completely free, right? Doing an hour and a half of giving you tons of advice and everything else, completely free. My books, give a lot away. Like somebody could literally read my book. In fact, a lot of people do, and they go, wow, that's great. I'm going to start implementing all of that. And they never pay me a penny, which is fine. I wrote the books because I want to give my stuff away. But ultimately, some people still need help because they can't implement on their own. So don't ever be afraid to give a lot away. And speaking of giving a lot away, I am going to be giving away some free strategy calls off the back of this session. So if you're listening going, I need help with this stuff, I don't know where to start, you can literally scan that QR code that's on screen and you've got the ability to book in a time with me. I've only opened up my calendar from now till next Tuesday because I'm going on holiday and I'm not going to be here for the rest of August. So if you want one of those calls, there are about 10 or 15 slots available, I think. So you can grab one of those calls. I have got a few questions when you go to the link, and I will be sharing the link at the end as well. But if you do want to book one of those calls and you want to be first in, grab one of those now. Literally all we'll do is we'll take your particular situation, whether you're an egg or a caterpillar or a butterfly or in a cocoon, and you and I will have a chat about how I can help you move to the next level. That's what that call is all about. Okay. So next one, what else helped me when I was a caterpillar? Switching off the news and the media. A coach told me to do this in 2013 and I've never looked back, right? So there's so much horrific things going on in the news at the moment, and it can be a massive distraction and it can be very negative in your world. So try as much as possible to stay away from news and media. Just do it for a week and see how much it changes your life. Like I've stuck to it ever since I did it for a week. Of course, I know what's going on in the world. That's really important to me, especially being a mom of 3 mixed race children. But it is very, very important that you are not infecting your brain with a lot of negativity. It's also important that you are in what I call a growth environment. So John Maxwell was a mentor of mine years ago, 2014. He's got lots and lots of leadership books, but he always talks about being in a growth environment. So other people are ahead of you. You're continually challenged. Your focus is forward. You're in an atmosphere that's very positive, and you're regularly out of your comfort zone. So these are things that are important. You've got to wake up excited. Failure is not your enemy. Others around you are growing, and people desire change, and growth is modeled and expected. He's laminated this from 1976 and literally has it in his wallet everywhere he goes. I'll pop it again, Maria. I'll pop it at the end, and everyone will get a. I'll pop it at the end for you. Actually, I'll just type it in here whilst I'm here. I'll just type it in for you in case you missed it. Social selling co.uk/go-to-person. There you go. That should be the link that takes you through. So what held me back? So there were a few things that helped me, but what held me back? The first thing is, when I was a caterpillar, I had lots and lots of ideas, and I procrastinated a lot. Anyone else sound familiar? Like bing, 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 like, oh my God, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And I just had tons of ideas because I was consuming so much stuff, like books, podcasts, etc., etc. I was like, right, I've got so many ideas now that I don't know what to do. Okay. And it was like, it actually held me back because I have a bit of ADHD, and I procrastinate a lot anyway. But I was like, ding, 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 what can I actually do? And rather than just getting on with it and focusing my attention on the job at hand, the next thing that held me back was that I started paying out a lot of money, like a lot of money, to kind of paid masterminds and experts that I thought were going to help me. I think my highest spend, I think, was £15,000. And I was like, but I couldn't afford it. But I figured that I needed that because that's what was going to take me to the next level. I also had shiny object syndrome. So I was like, oh, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And I'm like, literally, like, there's so many things you could grab your attention to. So those kind of things held me back. But I did build my business higher than where I was. So I think this is like 2017, 2018. Oh yeah, 2018. There we go. I was gone from local to more UK wide. I put on my first big event. I suddenly had a solution that I could work monthly payments, etc. My corporate training, I'd suddenly gone from charging 750 a day to 1,500. So I doubled my prices, but it still wasn't where I needed to be. I had a little team. I was still working long hours, had a bit of recurring revenue, and at 10K a month, I attracted an investor and a mentor, which was amazing. I was like, I don't know how to go from 10K a month to like scaling it beyond that. Like I was pretty stuck. I started running masterclasses. This one is, they're all holding red roses because this was Valentine's Day in 2018. And this picture becomes very relevant in my story later on, but I started running these. I did some big events. I put 80 people in a room, you know, and got all of my top clients there. These people across the stage. You'll recognize Bassett there from Gogglebox. We literally had, I think this group of people had generated something like 4.8 million in revenue from LinkedIn. So I was constantly sharing stories of my clients that had done well. So if you're not doing that, that's social proof again. Now in this room were some of my top customers, but also my investor was there as well in that particular room. That was at that big event. And he had helped me get from 10K a month up to 30K a month. And that big event was kind of the kickstart to that. He put some time and energy into me, put some money into me, for example. But I was like, I really need the expertise to get myself from 10K a month to 30K a month. But there were a few things that the investor started to do and say to me that were making me kind of think, this is in my gut not feeling right. And I got a few red flags, and I was like, to the point where I was in a boardroom with him in a shared office space. And he started to bully me, started to tell me that I was nobody. He thought he'd invested in someone that was, you know, like this, that, and the other. And like, how could I, you know, it was just a horrible time. It was being really horrible to me. He'd stripped away all the finances and took control of the business. And what I didn't realize that on 23rd of September 2018, I did realize is that he was orchestrating a hostile takeover of my business. And I literally lost everything overnight. Everything that I built. He took all my clients away. He stopped giving me access to finance. He stopped paying me and my husband at the time any money. He literally took control of the whole thing, took my team, took all my customers, and set up a different business down the road in competition with me, but stopped me from doing anything and financially crippled me. And it was just horrible. So guess where I ended up? in a little bit of a cocoon. So that was one of my first experiences of not having a great time. And I'd built this big business up, and everything came crashing around me. So I remember, though, that failure is not your enemy, and you've got to get the right people around you to support you. So at the time, I was around some great people and still am around some great people. So if you are in a place right now where you're like, I'm going through a bit of it, find the right people to support you. Chris and Nick are now my business partners in our new business. Tracy was an amazing support to me when I first was going through all of that. And one of my previous mentors in network marketing always said, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. And this is a Japanese proverb. So if you are in one of those, okay, I've fallen down and I'm in a not great place right now, like, you've got to get up again and go again. And that's what I knew I had to do. Now, back to this picture, Nick Jones in the middle there was in one of my master classes back in 2018. And little did I know that Nick was sitting inside my masterclass, having been a total social media dinosaur, literally writing the business plan for the business that we now have today. Nick is a phenomenal mentor to me. He is amazing, and he actually helped me navigate getting through the investor situation and the hostile takeover situation. And he was like, do you fancy working together? And most people thought I was mad, because they were like, you've just been through a hostile takeover with somebody that wanted to partner with you. Why would you go and partner with anybody else? But I trust Nick, and he's amazing, and he's built many businesses and still does today. And that's the reason why I decided to continue to work with him. And one of the things I will say to you, though, is you are only, I don't know who said this, but I found it on LinkedIn. I can't remember who said it, so apologies if you're on the line or watching, but you're only one mentor away from your business breakthrough. And it was when I started working with Nick that I realized the power of personal brand. December 2018, we set up what is now the Pipeline 44 group. And on the 2nd of January, 2019, I went to see this company, Brother, because I got an inbound lead, I think 2 days after we incorporated the business, from the commercial director of Europe for Brother, saying, hi, Sam, we've been following on LinkedIn. We'd like to talk to you about coming to work with us. And I was like, wow, I just lost my entire business. Literally, my entire business had gone. But there was a couple of things that investor could not take away from me. The first thing was my personal brand. And the second thing was my network. And he couldn't touch those 2 things. So you've always got those 2 things, regardless of what's going on. No one can ever take away your personal network or your personal brand. And what he didn't realize is that those 2 things were what built my business. So your personal brand, how you position yourself, your expertise, all of those things is what is going to drive people towards you. And those are the 2 things that he couldn't take away. So this inbound lead comes in after all of that madness had happened. And the first client I land is Brother. And we end up doing a European-wide social selling program. And I worked with Brother for 3-4 years, still working with them today. So it's amazing what can happen when you have a bit of self-belief, when you get back up again and you believe in the power of your personal brand, which is ultimately, if I hadn't positioned myself as that go-to person, they didn't care what company name I was working under. They wanted to work with the go-to person. And that was me, and still is me. We started doing masterclasses. Nick and I, we decided to get our training facilities. This was where we were operating out of. And you can see in the room there, Chris Taylor sitting there. Chris now works with us as well. At the time, Chris was the Instagram king and I was the LinkedIn queen. And Nick was looking for multiple experts to work with. We've now kind of put everything under one roof together. And Chris now is obviously talking about LinkedIn and social selling. So we created the Pipeline 44 group. We had a marketing agency and a training and speaking business. They were our revenue streams. And we built, back up again, right? We were building back up to 30K a month after all the madness that happened with the hostile takeover. And then guess what happened? 23rd of March, 2020, like it did for all of us, COVID happened. And our entire business was built on training, speaking, live events. We were doing 25,000 a month just in live training events. And there was also the agency and other stuff as well. And COVID obviously hit us really hard. So back we were again into the adversity phase. And guess what? I had to come out the other side of it as well. Now, remember, you've got all of these different phases, but you've got to go through them all. You've got to, sometimes you go through the adversity, you go back to being an egg. Sometimes you have to go back to being a hungry caterpillar again. Sometimes you get to the butterfly stage and decide, actually, I'm going to do something else now. And you go back to being an egg. But there are all these phases to get through. And COVID happened. And I was like, I said to Nick, I don't think this is going to go away very soon. So I started recording videos about everything I knew about LinkedIn and social selling. And we created an academy that we sold all the way through lockdown. And I continued to deliver my masterclasses online. But, you have to adapt and you have to, figure out how to do things. But that was really the start of what is now kind of our business now. And there have been other times that, you guys have already heard about my journey when it comes to my cancer story. But, this is me 4 months ago, sitting in my bed, hibernating in a really horrible place because chemo was absolutely brutal. But you know what? I came through the other side of it, and about a month happened, and I was able to ring the bell, and I was able to come through my treatments and get through the other side of probably the worst adversity I've ever gone through. So, I know a lot of you are in that place right now. You may be not going through what I've gone through from a health perspective, but, you do get through the other side of these things. But without adversity, the butterfly would never have the strength to achieve its destiny, would never develop the strength to become something extraordinary. And one thing about butterflies that I love is that they cannot see their own wings. And for a lot of you that are in that adversity phase right now, you might have just lost the ability to see your wings. So it's really important that other people around you know how amazing you are and start believing in you, because at the point when you can't believe in yourself, you do need other people around you to see your wings. So I think you've just might have lost sight of your wings a little bit. So maybe just realize how amazing you are. So our butterfly business now, we've got a team of 6. I'm working now about 35 hours, but I have been working about 10 through my treatments. I'm now commanding upwards of 23,000 for corporate training. We have a profitable business. It's sustainable. We've got an academy now, which is online with about 200 members. We've got a recurring revenue model. I would never have been able to step out of the business without that. My little expert business that once was on that little desk in the corner of a room with no furniture in is now scalable. We've got multiple 5 figures a month coming into the business. And we help everyone. Like, our lowest cost model is 50 quid a month. So people can start with us in our academy at 50 quid a month. And we're able to help everyone from a little egg to a caterpillar to a butterfly business and beyond. And now we help other people to build and scale their own businesses too. So what it takes to build and scale a butterfly business and a personal brand that's worth following. We've got 3 brands that help people to do that now. The Social Selling Academy in the middle there is the one that we help with kind of smaller businesses. Social Selling Teams is the one that we have for more corporate. And the Social Selling Secrets is all about free stuff. But this is one of the things that we talk about in the Social Selling Academy, which is the importance of having all these things in place to build your brand. Because it's not just about having a LinkedIn profile or putting content out. There are many, many ways that you can build your business from, all the ones on the left-hand side there. You've then got the ability to then control and nurture your audience. And then you've got the conversion and the close. Most people are missing quite a lot of these steps. Like, most people are doing LinkedIn, they're posting some stuff, they're connecting with people, they're doing a bit of engagement, but it's not actually turning into clients. And that's because they're missing the conversion piece and the close piece. Most people have not got all of these things in place. So I would recommend taking a picture of this. If I look back to all of the stuff that I've shared with you, and you think about how many of these are you doing right now, like I'll share it in just a second. If I look back to when we were in build mode, as in nobody knew who I was, these were all the things I was doing, and still am doing a lot of them now. So now we're in growth mode. Guess what? We're doing all of these things. So I've come through the other side of my treatments and I'm back out doing all of these things, right? So I recorded 2 podcasts last week with other people. I've been invited to speak on 5 different people stages. I'm out there doing, webinars. I'm out there doing workshops. I'm, all of these things, content, engagement, all of these things are all things that I'm out there doing. So it's really, really important that you kind of figure out, like, what things are you not doing that you should be doing. So if I were to leave that up on screen for just a second, pick 3 things that you're not doing at the moment to build your business that you could be doing better, or you could start doing. Now, you don't have to pop them in the chat box, but if you feel like it, you can use the chat box to share which things you could be doing more of. So pick 3 that you're not doing right now, and I would make that decision to get started, because there are things on here that you could easily start doing that you're not doing. Okay, so pick something. Podcast, in-room talks, evergreen webinar. Love it, Stephanie. Great. Now, I wouldn't go down the evergreen webinar route until you've got one that converts live. More time on Salesforce. Thanks, Kevin. Podcast, content, newsletter. Love it. Content, good. Get started using LinkedIn more often. Very good. Sharing more personal stories, like it. Okay. So you don't have to share them. LinkedIn newsletters, strategy sessions, in-room talks. Great. So now if you do all of that, you're going to own your space. Now, I get that you can't always do everything. But if you do, and you are serious about becoming the go-to expert that everyone talks about, I'm just kind of sharing the graft, right, that goes into doing that, because this didn't happen overnight, right? So I love it. Become a Sam in my space. Brilliant. But it's really hard work, and it's really hard to know what to focus on. So I want to help you. So I'm putting the code up again. You can literally scan it on your phone and go to the link. So you just click on your camera, hold it up there, and it will take you through to the booking. If you genuinely want some help, like, just book a call in with me, because I saw 40% of you right now are in a bit of a cocoon. And that's a lot of people based on the numbers on this call. There are still over 75 people live with me now. And more than 40% of you said that you are in a bit of an adversity phase. So if you're one of them, like, book a call with me. If you're like, okay, I'm an egg right now, I don't know what to do. Like, literally, this is just me helping, right? There's literally just me talking to you about this stuff. So book the call. There are a few questions at the start, because that's going to help me prepare effectively for our conversation. But, you know, we'll have half an hour together to kind of go through your current situation, and I'll give you as much help as you want. Come on with some questions. You know, if you need help with LinkedIn, or you need help with anything, like, definitely, like, booking that call. And now I think I'm pretty good on time, actually. We're bang on the hour. I'll leave the code on the bottom right-hand corner there. I'm pretty much done. So it would be good to get a little emoji from everyone that's still here in the chat box as to whether or not you found that useful. I'm going to start with one of those. Thank you from me for all of you for being here. Ask me anything. Like, you can literally ask me anything you want. I'll have a look at the Q&As and see if there's anything there. You're more than welcome, everybody. I'm glad to be back doing these. That's the big thing, I guess. You know, the last 10 months has not been easy for me. And it's been a while since I did a webinar. So thank you very much for being here on this workshop. I hope you found it useful. For those of you that are booking calls, I look forward to talking to you. Those are going to be over the next few days. They start tonight and they go through till Tuesday. So I really look. I haven't been away, Jeremy. Well, I kind of have. I've been hibernating a little bit, but I didn't disappear. There were some non-negotiables that I made sure I was still showing up on the news feed, that I didn't get forgotten about, that you know, that I still kept building my network and doing all those things. Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate it. Thank you, Pauline. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. If anyone's got questions, I think I've got some questions in the Q&A. Stefano, can you explain the different plans the Academy offers? So the Academy, we've got a standard version of the Academy, which is £50 a month plus VAT, and then we've got one which is £250 plus VAT. The difference is you get everything included with both of them, but the difference is you get more one-to-one support and accountability at the higher one. But the £50 a month one, if anyone books a call and you want to learn more about that, then obviously I'll go through it with you, but I'm not going to kind of explain it on here. I didn't want to do a big sales pitch or anything. But if the Academy is something you're interested in, then book a call and we can chat about it. B2C arena. Okay, Stephanie, you're asking, how do I apply this in the B2C arena? So one of the ways that you can do this in a B2C, so business to consumer environment, is I would recommend finding people on LinkedIn who are businesses who are in the food chain before or after you. So thinking about who else is on LinkedIn that runs a business has already got the clients that you want. Okay, so let's take, I was talking to a careers expert the other day who was doing like coaching for job seekers and CV writing and things like that. So I said to him, why don't you become the go-to person for smaller recruitment companies that don't have that expertise in-house? So rather than going to find lots and lots of people that would buy your coaching and career advice services and CV writing services, go build the relationship with other businesses that have got lots and lots of your ideal client. So that's an example. Niluka, at what stage did I start charging for speaking gigs? Right, I'm going to stop the share just now. At what stage did I start charging for speaking gigs? Well, first off, I still do free speaking gigs. I still take opportunities to speak for free if I believe that the audience is right for me, because I know that if I get in front of, say, 50 people who are an ideal client match for me, that if I do a good job on stage, I can use the opportunity on stage to move those people to my list. So I give away lots of stuff for free. I can move people to my email list and I can close them later on. I don't charge anything to go on, like I don't ask for money to go on a podcast or go to an event, for example. I do charge corporates for training. I do workshops that are paid, but it really depends on the audience. Not everybody's got the budget, but if I've got an opportunity to sell my books at an event, that's a way for me to make money. If they've got somebody videographing the event or photography at the event, I can use that in my marketing. So I'll be like, look, I'll speak for free, but I need something in return. So I think I was probably maybe a year in by the time I was kind of saying, look, I'm going to charge for me to come out and do this event. But yeah, I am like a professional paid speaker now, but I will still take the odd gig now and again if it's the right audience. But yeah. Chris, how did you first position yourself as an expert when you were still developing your expertise? Yeah, I mean, I did just start talking about it because what I figured out quite early on, Chris, is that even if I knew 10% more than everybody else, I could still get away with like being somebody that knew more than the majority of people, right? If you're not sure how to position yourself, then get on a call with me and we'll figure it out together, okay? So for me, it was about just starting to talk about it and just to share tips and expertise. And I quickly realized what I thought was really obvious, majority of people didn't actually know. Like they didn't know half the stuff that I was talking about, just real basic stuff for me. I was like, doesn't everybody know this? But still, even today, like, you know, I can go into a company. I went into a company this week and there were 11 of them in the room and only one of them had like a header image, like an image on their banner, on their LinkedIn profile. You think by this stage that, you know, people would know that that's a thing, but they still don't. So I think it's just about, you know, talking about your area of expertise and making the assumption that you still know more than the general population about your topic. So I think that's the key thing. Which I've done. I've done that. Are there any other questions? Okay, good. There's loads of you still on. Okay, well, if you've still got questions, I'm happy to hang around. If you don't, oh yeah, that's the other thing. Jeremy, thank you for the reminder. I'm speaking at Uplift Live in 2025, which is the UK's only dedicated LinkedIn conference. Jeremy is one of the co-hosts of that event. And yeah, if you want to see me come and speak live, you can get along to that event. There'll be loads of LinkedIn nerds there, LinkedIn enthusiasts, and people wanting to learn from lots of experts. And I'm one of the people on stage at that event. So the link is in the chat box there. So I'll be talking about that more. It's in March 27th in Birmingham next year. Right, that's it, everyone. I've still got more than 50 of you here, so I'm not going to take any more of your time. Feel free to book in one of those calls. Go to socialselling.co.uk/go-to-person, and you can get in my diary that way. I'm going to be enjoying the rest of August after next week, away with my kids and relaxing after what has been a pretty awful 10 months, but I'm glad to be back. And thank you, everyone, for being here. See you all soon. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye, bye, bye.